Mikä on vapaamuurari? Minä olen.
Thank you, brother, for that amazing introduction. My name is Jared, and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And this is the tie of our Grand Master here in Mississippi and the What is a Mason lapel pin, both of which were done by Edgar over at Masonic Revival. You can learn more about Edgar in the links below. Regarding this What is a Mason lapel pin, keep your ear to the ground. We're going to have some more releases coming out soon. You can also follow along over at my website. Take a look at whatisamason.org/support. We are still in the Master Mason's degree in the third section lecture as it is performed here in the state of Mississippi. And now we're about to discuss the 3 steps. So first, as always, let's go over the wording as we can discuss it. The 3 steps usually delineated on the master's carpet are emblematical of the 3 principal stages of human life: youth, manhood, and age. In youth, as entered apprentices, we ought industriously to occupy our minds in the attainment of useful knowledge. In manhood, as fellowcrafts, we should apply our knowledge to the discharge of our respective duties to God, our neighbor, and ourselves, so that in age, as Master Masons, we may enjoy the happy reflection consequent on a well-spent life and die in the hope of a glorious immortality. As straightforward as that sounds, I think there's actually a good bit here to unpack and think about. So, first off, we can recognize that we're kind of again doing that progressive moral science, right? Where we're talking about 3 stages of life: youth, manhood, and age. And we're specifically being taught this, don't forget, in our entered apprentice degree. And in my opinion, too many men in their 20s and 30s, which I fall into that classification, receive their master's degree during those decades, and they see themselves as a Master Mason because they have received that degree. Yet, if they had this lecture taught to them or some semblance of it, I feel like maybe they didn't really dig down into what was being taught to them. Yes, you were made a Master Mason in a symbolic lodge. But what did this degree really teach you a Master Mason actually is? So first, one point of clarification. In our textbook, in our plain English non-secret textbook here in Mississippi, there is an asterisk that explains something. So I want to bring that up here. It's regarding the word carpet. And it says, "Carpet, as here used, refers to a piece of cloth on which is painted the emblems of the degrees." Now, you may have seen carpets like this before. You may have seen them on posters. You may see them in slides, PowerPoint presentations, or however else it may be displayed to you. I think the more common terminology that people would apply to this is a trestle board, where all the symbols of the degree are portrayed and lessons can be instructed. So we go out of our way a little bit here to make a point that we're talking about that being a carpet, that the word carpet is being used to refer to that. And I think one reason that we're going out of our way to define the word carpet is because here in Mississippi, you will find the station, the chair of the worshipful master of a lodge on a platform that takes 3 steps to get up to. And so here you might initially just assume that we're talking about the position of a worshipful master, the actual chair of the lodge. And instead, we're stepping back from that and saying, no, these are three different steps that we are alluding to, and here's what the definition of that is. So we go out of our way to explain carpet. And that's just a ancillary note in the textbook. It's not a part of the ritual itself, which is why it did not get read earlier. So there's, I want to work my way up to something that really strikes me about this particular wording. And I'll be honest with you up front, I have no proof about it, but I'm going to share a theory with you. So here we have the three stages of life: youth, manhood, and age. Again, we're told in youth, as entered apprentices, we ought industriously to occupy our minds in the attainment of useful knowledge. And I think that's a lesson you're going to hear repeated in just about every degree and every Masonic body that you will ever become a member of. Education matters, which ought to really make everybody wonder why it's not a more integral part of our regular Masonic life. Maybe that's not true in your lodge or in your jurisdiction. But I know that there is, without a doubt, a groundswelling of Freemasons who are trying to sort of wring their brothers by the collar and say, come on now, we know education is important. We teach this in all the degrees. Why are we not going out of our way to provide some level of education above ritualistic work inside of our lodges? And I think that that is a fair argument to be made. The other side of the coin, however, is that know thyself, right? So you're supposed to pick up on the cues that are given to you in degrees and then go seek out the knowledge yourself. So here's where I think those two intermix, because I think the second argument holds water as well. But we got to start. We kind of got to give a brother an idea of what he's looking for. We don't, in Mississippi ritual work, really go into enough detail to hint on where the rabbit hole is, so to speak. So if we can provide education inside of our lodges, enough so that it gets the wheels spinning, gets the mind working, then our brethren can go back home and start trying to find where things are. A common question I get every month is, well, Jared, what books do you recommend? That's a discussion we should be having in our lodges. Our lodges should have at least a small selection of books. We should have reading lists that we can provide to new Masons and be able to show them the path to start to travel. Okay? All right, so in manhood as fellowcrafts, we should apply our knowledge to the discharge of our respective duties to God, our neighbor, and ourselves. That is the majority of our life itself. I don't really care to try to put some specific ages on this because I don't think that's the point. But I think that we attain the knowledge and then apply it throughout the balance of our life. That's not to say that knowledge stops to be attained at some point. It is to say that the further in life that we get, the more application of that knowledge we actually can apply. That was a terrible sentence, but I hope you understand where I was trying to go with that. And then here, and this is where I'm going to get off into this tangent here. It says, as Master Masons, we may enjoy the happy reflection consequent on a well-spent life and die in the hope of a glorious immortality. Isn't that interesting that when we talk about age here, again, we're not throwing a years of age on this. We're not suggesting that it's 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or even if you're a centennial that makes age. It's interesting that the emphasis in this section is about death itself. So why does that mean something to me? Well, I've thrown the theory out there in previous videos, so you really, if you've been a watcher of the channel, then this is really kind of the conclusion of something I've shared before. Here in Mississippi, we can go back to the early graves of the early 1800s, mid 1800s. And I say early graves in the sense that Freemasonry was established in Mississippi in 1818. So early Masonic graves, including people that we know without a doubt were, in fact, master masons. And yet, on their tombstones, on the gates around the lot that their gravestone is inside of, we will see what today we would term as being a fellow crafts emblem. Why? Why in the world would somebody who spent years attaining something to the effect of being the Grand Chaplain of Mississippi, why would they put a fellow craft symbol on their gravestone? Why not put the Master Mason's emblem? I have no proof outside of these words that would suggest a good reason why. It seems to me that the mindset was that we were to industriously engage ourselves as fellow crafts for the extent of our lives. And then here, as master masons, we may enjoy the happy reflection consequent on a well-spent life and die in the hope of a glorious immortality. Is it possible that in the early to mid 1800s in Mississippi, men felt that they could not fully reach the capacity of what it meant to be a master mason until they passed away? I think that there's some validity there, but because of the nature of our fraternity, that so little is written down, especially anything that is specifically esoteric, meaning that the knowledge is only meant for those who are members of that group, that speculation and I don't know what the correct phrasing here for it is, but the only way we can reason it out is through these few words and what we see actually reflected in the physical world, such as what they put on their tombstones. It's also interesting that if you go back to the Grand Lodge proceedings during those same time frames, the stamp, if you will, the wood stamp, the engraving, the picture that is on the inside covers of those books has the square and compasses in what today would be considered to be a fellow crafts emblem. Why? I leave it up to you. Okay, a small section of the third section lecture in the Master Mason's degree that I think books could be written on. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch. Next, when we come back, we will talk about the burning incense. And rest assured, I have a few things to say about that. Thank you so much to all of our supporters, our patrons, those who head over to whatisamason.org/support and purchase lapel pins and challenge coins. I really do appreciate all the support that you provide, and especially to those who share the videos around to their brethren and friends as well. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.